Hey, I just want to talk about tomorrow's contempt trial. I think if we don't settle the case, the judge might throw the book at us.
It's okay, we'll just lie to the judge.
We can't lie to a judge. What's going to happen if we get caught?
If we get caught, I'll tell them it was your idea.
Maybe it's time for me to rethink this attorney-client relationship.
In Illinois, only the judge can let us out of a case, even if the client fires us. But what do you have to show in order to bail on a case at the, 11th hour? Sadly, there aren't a lot of published opinions that discuss just how bad things have to be for a judge to let us out on game day. The best case is from 40 years ago, Milovich, which merely states you need a valid reason if you're asking in the midst of a trial. Milovich, if you read it, it's kind of a crazy case. The mom had 4 attorneys. That's not a typo. And they were all at once, and she kept hiring and firing them like baseball cards. And that 21-day rule kept kicking the case out. I mention this because the best case law can help us is to give us examples of reasons that, aren't valid. For example, in Milovich and another case, Black, the court found that when the request to either leave the case or to fire an attorney is due to emotional whim versus sound reason, it's okay to deny it. Another is if the judge suspects it's a delay tactic. I know I'm kind of saying water is wet here, but that's also been held insufficient. And lastly, attorney fees. If our client can't pay on the day of trial, that's really on us, not them. So let's say we handle the first part and present a valid reason. Well, now we have another problem. We have that 21-day transition period. Judges hate, especially now with backlogged dockets due to COVID, to reserve all that time for trial only to have it thrown away because someone filed a motion to withdraw at the 11th hour. And Rule 13 is clear. The litigant gets 21 days to file an appearance or get new counsel. During that period, as we all know, the case goes on ice. Any hearing dates, they're pretty much nuked and it's back to square one. Now, that doesn't mean the judge's hands are kind of completely tied. They can set court dates during that period, provided those court dates fall well outside the transition period, and they can order certain motions and pleadings being withdrawn. But let's say it's the day of trial. Opposing counsel's kind of pounding their fist up and down, objecting to you leaving because the next available trial date is, let's say it's a year out. And complicating this, let's say your client had prior counsel who bailed on the eve of trial, which resulted in a huge delay before you even came on board. And here we are, repeating history. The issue then becomes, if the court is open to letting us out, are they married to that 21-day rule? Can they let us out and sort of move forward? The answer is yes, but there's a pretty big but here. The appellate court doesn't endorse this trial strategy, but if the judge does go forward, he might be willing to look the other way. Now, this quasi-exception is discussed in 2 cases, Pavlovich and Anderson, but for both, the analysis is dicta because that 21-day issue wasn't really properly teed up, if you will. However, this dicta is structured very much like a holding. It notes that in the past, if circumstances are extreme enough, they won't intervene if the judge fails to give the litigant their 21 days before going forward. And Pavlovich gives us kind of 2 examples. 1, firing the lawyer the morning of trial, and 2, when a party doesn't argue the judge's actions were prejudicial. Now, that was a holding in Eggert. I can't say this case, but when you read it, Dad sort of stood mute while a fee judgment was entered against him within that 21-day transition period. He knew about it, never argued that the error was prejudicial, so the order, it stood. The key factor on whether an appeals court is going to kind of look the other way on that 21-day rule is what precipitated the withdrawal. But ultimately, I think it's going to come down to who the judge is. A cautious judges, it's going to be a hard sell to them if they're disinclined to reset court dates, but if your judge is kind of closer to the honey badger, Anyway, before I go, here's April with all the case law factors the judge is allowed to consider before denying that 21-day transition period.
Not all failures to allow a 21-day transition period constitute reversible error. Courts will consider whether the party fired the attorney, when the motion to withdraw was filed, whether the party claims they were prejudiced by actions taken within the 21-day period, whether the party appeared at the hearing that resulted in the order challenged on appeal, how soon after granting the withdrawal the judge took alleged prejudicial action, whether new counsel appeared and was ready to proceed, and whether the notice of the motion to withdraw and the order granting the same was served on the party.
Anyways, that's all I have. Thanks for watching.